Peace be upon you all. Honored and excited to have you around within the series of the Road to Riyadh in a workshop for the statistical practices themed the framework of statistical quality assurance and the role of developing official statistics. The workshop comes at a time when the Kingdom of Saudi is preparing to host the 6th United Nations World Data Forum 2026 in Riyadh this coming November, which is one of the most prominent international forums concerned with the future of data, statistics, and the sustainable development. Before we begin, let's consider an important question. Why has quality become a central focus in the development of official statistics? Over the past few years, the world has witnessed an unprecedented transformation in the volume of data, the diversity of its sources, and the speed of production. Official statistics no longer rely on traditional surveys and consensus, but now leverage administrative records, big data, and multiple digital sources. This transformation has created significant opportunities to enhance the value of statistics, but it has also presented new challenges relating to reliability, consistency, transparency, and data quality. In this changing reality, the question is no longer simply how to produce more data, but rather, and perhaps more importantly, how do we ensure the quality of such data? How can statistical institutions maintain the trust of users and stakeholders and decision makers in their outputs? Several years ago, we faced simple yet a critical question. How can we ensure the quality of hundreds of different statistical products in a consistent and sustainable manner? The question marked the beginning of our journey to develop a quality assurance system. In this session, of course, Mr. Muhammad Al-Amri, in the first part, will review the importance of statistical quality and the challenges facing statistical institutions and the most prominent international references that the authority has relied upon in developing its quality assurance system. In the second part, I will be back to you reviewing the authority's experience in developing framework for statistical quality assurance, translating such principles into practical tools and the practices, and supporting the quality of statistical processes and products. And now we are pleased to invite Mr. Muhammad Al-Amri to begin the first part of this session. Please, the floor is yours. Thank you so much, Mr. Anas. Peace, blessing be upon you all. Welcome. Before we talk about the framework of the quality assurance in statistics, let's shed a fresh light on the importance of statistical quality today, given the increasing dependence on data, whether in decision-making processes or policy-making processes. Quality per se has become a necessary, it's not an option, additional option. That is why institutions and the statistical offices have developed approaches, methodologies, and frameworks through which, of course, we ensure the quality of all the statistical processes. With this in mind, of course, there should be always a quality in the outcomes, the final outcomes. Through these approaches and frameworks, it is very important to translate them into practices, operational practices, in such a way that goes across all the day-to-day operations and processes. Let's shed a fresh light on the most important challenges facing the official statistics in general. The most important challenges, there is a kind of diversity in the data resources and sources, and also there is an increase in the demand on the outcomes and the statistical outcomes and products. So it is very important to develop a mechanism or mechanisms to identify and determine such sources and resources in a more appropriate way. Equally important, other challenges also include the different practices coming into play, the methodologies and frameworks across the different statistical offices and institutions. With this in mind, such kind of differences, of course, may cause a kind of challenge in terms of the level of consistency and comparability on benchmarking, which is very important as a component when it comes to the quality of statistics. All the efforts made, of course, to enhance the kind of consistency of data and comparability. Equally important, other challenges also include that there should always be a kind of early detection of, in terms of the quality of statistics before they come to the final outcomes on products. With this in mind, all these challenges combined together need to be addressed based on frameworks, mechanism, and approaches in such a way that ensure the quality of statistics. Let's shed a fresh light on the statistical quality concept, or what does it mean in the official statistics. The concept of official quality of official statistics is not just like accurate data or highly accurate data. Rather, it is how much they address the demand by producing reliable and usable high-quality data across different sectors. Again, the concept also includes in official statistics is that there should be compliance and commitment in terms of the international standards, which help, of course, to build comparability across and benchmarking across the countries based on these official statistics. Equally important, this is not sufficient or just like to provide highly accurate data. Also, such data needs to be made available in appropriate time, in real time, for stakeholders and users, and also for all decision makers and for the stakeholders. Equally important, transparency. Transparency is a very important factor when it comes to the quality of statistics and the official statistics concept by providing methodologies, mechanism of calculation of such indicators, and the best approaches followed and adopted to produce such statistics, through which, of course, trust is built and made. That is why we'd say that quality per se is not just like quality of data, but also it goes beyond the statistical process and operations, including the whole gamut, the whole process in terms of dissemination of the final products and outcomes. There are different dimensions for the quality of official statistics, which is adopted, of course, among the international standards and adopted globally. Among these dimensions, we can measure the level of quality, which is a very important element or component when it comes to the quality ecosystem. It is very important to measure the level of quality to better understand it. So such kind of dimensions, a group of dimensions, we look into such dimensions as a one unified group, and it is very important that they should be always realized for each and every statistical outcome and should not be looked into this, of course, solely or individually. It is very important for the data should be appropriate, consistent, and also address the needs of the users and stakeholders. It is very important to be of high reliability and accuracy and should be made available when it comes in real time and in most appropriate time and favorable time. The outcomes should be, of course, consistent and also benchmarked and comparable through mechanism approaches, unified standards adopted, of course, within the official statistics. After producing such data, it is very important to make them available for users and stakeholders and make them easily available and accessible in different formats, supporting them in official statistics and formats based on adopted methods and approaches when it comes to producing data, statistical data. Speaking of the management of the statistical quality processes, it is very important to have different components to be made available to ensure the quality of the statistical processes and make them sustainable, it is very important to have a group of such components and elements, including roles, matrix of roles and responsibilities across all the stages or phases of statistics. Again, it is very important to have close follow-up and close monitoring, continued monitoring for such statistical, and better know the level of competence and compliance, of course, based on the standards. It is very important, which is also a very important component, which is like regular reports through which, of course, the quality of statistical is documented and the performance is indicated and is followed up and monitored, and follow up, of course, the solutions with all the notifications given. Other important elements is the mechanism, approaches, and classification when it comes to non-compliance or non-commitment when it comes to the quality standard. This is a very important component. Again, it is very important to have corrective measures after identifying the notes and flagging up any challenges. So it is very important to activate such procedures, corrective procedures, and be part of timeline pathway to be followed as always and address such kind of challenges. Again, it is a very important objective when it comes to the sensitivity of quality. There should be always a continued review and auditing to further develop the ecosystems, to assess the efficiency and efficacy of the whole ecosystem in such a way to make them sustainable and continued for quality of statistics. Speaking, I would like also to walk you through the journey of the development of the quality ecosystem. This journey goes through 6 stages, key stages. We started the first stage by identifying the baseline, the current situation, by identifying the areas of improvement for the quality of statistics. Then the next one, we, of course, researched the best practices and the standards adopted globally. And also we looked into alignment with the local context and further develop them. Of course, we have developed the framework, so we have come to have a reference document and a tool for the quality of statistics in such a way to unify all the standards, to have them all in a spirited unit. Through this framework, we have developed the tools of statistics quality, which are very important when it comes to measure the quality or identify the level of quality across all the stages, the statistical stages. With this in mind, it is very important to have a close and continued follow-up and monitoring for such kind of notification notes, observations, feedback. This is done through the stage of following up, monitoring, and based on the corrective procedures through our journey, of course, for the development of the ecosystem. At the end of the day, the quality has been integrated and been translated into everyday practice so that it is adopted across all the steps, all the stages, all the processes, the everyday life operations, so that we move ahead from theoretical concept into operational and institutional sustainable practices. Moving ahead to alignment with the global standards, of course, we have adopted the best practices and the global standards, the best global standards, and also discussing and consulting with the global subject matter experts and consultants, including the UN framework for quality assurance, which is a very important principle known as INCAF. Also, the general framework for the statistical operations and the process. So this model has been researched and has been studied and adopted, and which, of course, controls all the stages of quality and also unifies the processes, the methods, the approaches when it comes to producing statistics. So quality per se is a key component across all these stages. Again, we have looked into the best practices and discussed the subject matter consultant and experts on quality globally, of course, at the end of the journey, we have aligned such standards and also been translated and adopted in terms of the suitability and appropriacy for the local context. In the first part, we have looked and walked you through the importance of the statistical quality and the challenges relating, of course, to this facing the statistical institutions, given the diversity of resources and sources and the increase on the demand for data. We have also looked into the dimensions, the different dimensions of the statistical quality and the development of the ecosystem, the international references on which the GSTAT has relied in terms of the development of the institutional framework. We have also looked into the concept frameworks and approaches represent a very important step. But again, it is not the end goal per se. The real success starts when such principles translate into practical practices or in a methodological way, in a systematic way every day, so becomes part and parcel of the everyday practice and exercise when it comes to decision making, policy making, and the continued development. Again, the most important question comes into play: how can we translate such principles, standards into procedures and practical tools that can be applied and measured? Again, how is it possible for a statistical institution to move from theory, speaking about quality, into continued development? To further address this question, I would like to give the floor to my colleague Anas Al-Aish, the head of the quality development, to further speak about the assessment tools and the experience of the GSTAT when it comes to translating this practically. Please, Mr. Anas, the floor is yours. Mr. Mohammed, thank you, much appreciated. As we have looked in the first part, building an efficient ecosystem does not start from scratch, but rather leveraging the robust practices globally. The real challenge does not lie in identifying such practices or such standards or principles or values, rather have to translate them into practices and procedures daily to support the statistical production officially for any statistical institution, particularly here in the GSTAT. So the needs comes into play to address the quality in such a way to be an institution, a unified institutional, for instance, linking together the global standards and the real operations after some months, of course, by looking into the best practices, the UN framework for the quality assurance, and also looking into the GSTM for the statistical procedures. We have come to a very important belief, which is that quality per se cannot be managed if we look into from one angle. If we focus on quality as a final product, we will discover the different problems after time is over. If we focus only on operations and processes, we may ignore the institutional environment to represent these operations and processes. That is why we have developed this framework to cover the whole ecosystem fully. Now let's have a look and walk you through this framework. As we've said, it represents the Unified Institutional Reference for Statistics, which is a document that is guidelining the unification of standards. This framework includes 4 levels. And each level has different principles, different standards, which all institutions across the GSTAT should apply and should be committed to and should comply to. First, the management of the statistical ecosystem, which of course controls and regulates the whole relationship, so no one single institution can work individually, without or in silos, without cooperating with the other institutions. It is very important to have like close cooperation, coordination across the different relevant entities and institutions. That is why it is very important to have this kind of statistical ecosystem to regulate and unify the whole practices, the whole operations and processes, and also be compliant with the standards to have unified standards. Moving ahead to the second level, which is the management of the institutional environment, we have like different principles, standards through which, of course, it is very important to develop policies, procedures that are very important, which enable all the statistical operations and activities across the GSTAT functions and departments. The most important policies are the procedures, and also ensuring the privacy and confidentiality of such data. It is very important to work closely on such standards to ensure the privacy and confidentiality of such data across the GSTAT functions and departments. We also have different dimensions and aspects in this level, and these are the standards that we should be committed to. This is a good example, such as like committed to the standards relating to the technical resources, human resources, and financial resources. As we've said, quality is not just to focus on the quality of outcomes as figures and numbers or references or indicators. It all starts from enablers empowered by the GSTAT or the entity or institution to have high quality and good outcomes for the statistical production. Moving ahead to the third level, which is the statistical operation and processes. This is one of the most important levels through which, of course, we ensure that all the methodologies and approaches are made available for the statistical operation activity. It is very important that all the practice exercises are aligned and also are regularly updated based on the global practices. It is very important to have a special approach for each product in this stage. Of course, it is very important to have high-level planning for all the data and to work on how to manage time when it comes to disseminate information and data. So this is a very important to work on closely, planning per se, because we focus on planning for the operational processes that is in statistics, through which, of course, we work on the development of tools and outcomes. Moving ahead to the fourth level, which is the statistical products, which cover of course, the final product. We have 5 standards that have been identified, previously referred to: alignment, consistency, benchmark of comparability, timeliness, accessibility, clarity. So all these standards measure the quality of outcomes as a final product or outcomes. It is very important to ensure such standards are in line and are applied and measured appropriately. In the previous stage, the framework was developed, of course, with all the standards, the principles, and have been identified and clarified. The document has been built, and all the elements have been identified and made available in terms of dimensions of quality and what is necessary to develop the statistical processes and operations. After the framework has been laid down and developed, the question is, how is it possible for us to measure these operations and processes as a whole? So that is why we have developed the quality assessment of the statistical outcomes on the products. In this initiative, we have developed one unified tool to measure maturity and the development of tools, statistical tools that we have worked. In this tool, assessment is made on 2 types. One that is quality assessment and the quantity assessment. The quality assessment is made when we have certain questions made in terms of how much these practices come into play in terms of the policies of such a statistical outcome and how we meet and address time timeline, it is very important to have a measure and also to ensure that such a measure or measures are applied in a unified manner for all the statistical products. So this aspect was very important to work on. The second type of assessment, which is quantity assessment in terms of indicators, figure-based and number-based quality, through which, of course, we produce these outcomes and products. For example, we have indicators relating to accuracy, relating to response, relating to technical indicators, and how much, for example, the data are integrated. All are figure and number based, through which, of course, we look into this and we see the quality of a product, and to ensure that the quality is realized through this kind of quantity and quality assessments, two types of assessment. We can work on the full picture of how and we ensure the quality of the product at the GSTAT, and we can carry out the assessment across all the statistical products at the GSTAT, and it was one of the great projects at the GSTAT. As for the methodology of the assessment of the statistical products quality, it is very important now to have a methodology and approach for the assessment purposes. As we've said, it is because we have different statistical products and we work on that. Is why we felt that it is very important to develop a unified methodology to assess and measure all the statistical products in a unified way, and also to make them benchmark and comparable for all the statistical products and outcomes. So in this methodology, we have 4 stages. The first stage, which is the preliminary stage, through which, of course, awareness is fostered and raised for the outcomes. And this is a very important stage, to foster and raise awareness about the quality of statistical outcomes, the dimensions quality, the practices relating to all the quality framework. It is very important to focus on enhancing the practice and culture and awareness of quality. Quality per se is not just like related to the statistical data, but also to be like a practice inside the GSTAT and the institution relating to this. It is very important to foster the awareness of, and also through the different workshops about quality. Moving ahead to the next stage, which is collection, where, of course, the assessment tools are collected based on and by the relevant stakeholders and people through documents, through which, of course, documents and pieces of evidence are collected for the statistical operations processes and activities. Then the third stage is analysis, which is very important, through which, of course, all the pieces of evidence are reviewed and benchmarked and compared, of course, with the standards, where, of course, to have it like a final statistical outcome, and to ensure that to have like corrective procedures and measure, but to ensure that they are fully applied. Moving ahead to the final one, which is like improvement and enhancement, which is very important. Assessment per se is not sufficient. It is very important to improve, or to have the full improvement stage going across the whole statistical outcomes, and also to identify recommendations based on the assessment, also to have like time-based plan to address any gap or any challenges or any problems through the assessment and the improvement stage. So it is very important to always focus on the improvement stage, which is the key objective of the whole assessment and improvement. After we have worked on the initiative of the assessment of the statistical outcomes and the auditing and reviewing the outcomes, the quality of statistics and the indicators, as we've said, and now we have formed a full picture about the quality of each and every statistical outcome. now we shifted the focus on how we develop the statistical operation and processes at the quality platform. Well, it is a mechanism to follow up and monitor the integrity of statistical operation and processes from scratch without waiting for the quality outcome to be reviewed. So the quality is being checked and being monitored at the beginning of the. We have 8 stages for the statistical operations and processes. For the quality assurance, we have checkpoints for each stage across the 8 stages, of course, for the statistical activity. So through this portal, we can, of course, monitor as early as possible and detect as early as possible based on the quality standard. It is very important also to check, of course, to have like corrective measures immediately, and also to focus as early as possible. This mechanism in place supports a lot and ensures that quality per se, we repeat it again and again. It is not just like the final outcomes and the product, but also for the statistical operation and process. So it is very important to address any note, any observation, any challenges or gaps through the whole stage. This is one of the practices that we have developed or underdeveloped when it comes to monitoring quality as continued as such. After looking into the whole frameworks and developing the whole frameworks in terms of the quality assurance framework and the quality portal project, all this is very important to enhance the quality of products. This helps to enhance the maturity and awareness of the statistical products and the efficiency, operational efficacy and efficiency of the GSTAT in terms of the compliance and commitment at a higher level. So there's been always a high level of commitment, compliance in terms of the quality standards, particularly that have been identified to ensure the quality and the framework. This is more. Here we focus on the general impact for all the assessment and improvement stages, the continued assessment and improvement. This is one of the great effects, of course, that has come into play based on the quality portal. And now it has been there to think how we can address any problems, any feedback as early as possible in terms of the accuracy of the outcomes after the standards have been identified for the 5 quality dimensions in a more consistent way for all the statistical products. And now we have a certain focus on all the statistical products to always improve the accuracy of data and the reliability of data. It is very important also to enhance compliance and commitment, and also the practice of quality has been always a very important step to ensure that it is always there, and this has helped to enhance the culture and the practice and awareness, maturity of the stakeholders and users, and also to be committed always to the global standards and also the institutional efficacy. We cannot carry out assessment operations and develop recommendations. It is very important for the ecosystem to ensure continued follow-up and monitor for all the feedback, gaps and challenges and remarks when it comes to the quality development. Without this, of course, we cannot continue, we cannot further develop to enhance the quality inside across the GSTAT. The institutional follow-up is always carried out to enhance the outcomes quality. Avoiding repeating such mistake, which is very important, one of the key objectives of quality. The key objective, once anything flagged up and identified, or any remark has been flagged up which does not go in line with the standards are a little different, it is very important to look into how we can avoid such mistakes so they won't be repeated again and again. Of course, the key role, which is very important at the GSTAT, is to enable the GSTAT to transform from to be a leading statistical leader. This is very important, and we seek always to realize based on the best of practices and produce the best of practices to develop the quality of the statistical outcomes as always. We have identified the future trends, as we've said, to develop the statistical outcomes. This is one of the most important objectives at the GSTAT, to continue automating all the outcomes statistical inside the GSTAT, to monitor and follow up closely the outcomes quality, and also so we have different indicators, but we are always committed to looking into the best of practices and the global standards, through which, of course, we can further discover any areas of improvement across all the statistical operations and processes and outcomes. We always seek to enhance and adopt the best of practices and the standards. With this in mind, I summarize the time by our vision. Quality per se is not just quality of data, but it is the quality of the whole statistical operations and the processes from A to Z. With this in mind, I would like to highly express my appreciation and gratitude. I'll give the floor now to Mr. Muhammad Al-Amri. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Anas. In closing the session, we can say that the journey of developing statistical quality is not just about building a framework or developing assessment tools, but it is a continued journey to building trust and enhancing the value of official statistics. We have today we explored how the quality can evolve from the set of requirements and the standards, and also the different challenges, all the way to adopting the best of practices and the standards, global standards, and developing a unified institutional framework for quality, all the way to building assessment tools and also applying the quality portal, and also enhancing the continued improvement in practice inside institutions. We've seen that quality cannot be realized in one stage or one entity. It is rather a joint responsibility that goes across all the stages of the statistical operations and practices, such as designing the statistical outcome, collecting data, processing and addressing data, all the way up to disseminating the outcomes and applying such outcomes. Experience has shown that investing in quality is not just reflected on the quality of data. Rather, it reflects on the level of confidence and trust on the official statistics and the ability of institutions, decision makers, policy makers to rely on in such a confident way. With the continued development of data and the state-of-the-art technologies, the importance of quality will become more and more important, more than before, which requires the continued development and enhancing integration and benefiting from innovations, while still establishing the continued development and improvement across all the statistical stages and phases. To conclude, the key message that is that the quality of statistics is not built on the publication of data, but it is built at each and every step of statistics, each piece of statistics being published and each indicator used to make a decision. At the end of the day, depends on the level of confidence and trust of the data which they leverage. With this in mind, investing in quality is investing in trust and confidence, which is an investment in the future of the official statistics and the roles it plays in supporting sustainable development and decision-making processes. I would like to highly express my appreciation and gratitude for your engagement and participation, hoping to see you again and again in other forums, events, and workshops in the near future. Thank you very much. Your attention is highly appreciated.